Okay, gents, let's switch gears now and focus on all the action coming up and down the table in the Premier League. Match week 31. Let's preview it, give our score predictions for all these games, and starting at the very top of the table, looking at the title race. Nick, Man City against Leicester City. This is an intriguing one. Obviously, Leicester fired Brendan Rodgers, had interim bosses in there. Hasn't worked out the last few games. They sunk even further into the relegation zone. And now we have Dean Smith turning up again in the Premier League. Former Aston Villa boss, didn't keep Norwich up, was fired by Norwich earlier this season in the Championship. He's in to try and save the Foxes. Firstly, what do you think about his appointment? And secondly, all signs here are pointing towards a big Man City win, right?
Yeah, look, I like his appointment. I would have liked it more maybe like the day after the firing happened. If you're going to get rid of Brendan Rodgers, I just don't think his appointment's going to matter much here. There are new manager bounces, and there's beating a team at home who is absolutely buzzing. And honestly, there's always that risk. We talk about overlooking an opponent because it's coming up. I think this is a team that is excited to keep playing and to keep that form and to keep buzzing. And it's a buzzsaw right now. And I really think I've been struggling with what Andy said for a while about how is Man City going to put up with the dealing with the schedule congestion. And I'm like, yes, that makes all the sense in the world, but I think they just will.
Yep. Yeah, and they've shown that in previous seasons, right? This point of the campaign is when it gets the best out of them. And Pep Guardiola said it this week. I love this time of the season. I live for this. This is brilliant. And it almost seems this is when, again, it's cliche, cream rises to the top, right? These guys there, they've just been focused all season long on getting themselves right. They've had their ups and downs, but for these few months now when the trophies are on the line, they're ready for it. So, Andy, what's your score prediction for this game? And give me your thoughts on Man City as well.
Yeah, there is something to City and the way that Pep builds his team all season long.
Yeah,
he doesn't start the season with the team. Yes, and so obviously he's very different from all other managers in the world because of some of the things that he's done. Do we need to ignore Pep and City for August, September, and October, and then pick them up in November? And just start talking about them then as they start to morph into the team that they're going to be, because it feels like every day there's something new with this guy. There's a new thing that he's complaining about, or a new thing that he's really focusing on, and he's willing to sacrifice everything else to work on this one little thing because he believes come the end of the season, the time that we're at now, it's going to make that small little difference. And maybe that's part of the genius, maybe that's part of the madness of Pep, maybe it's a little bit of both. And so speaking of madness, Leicester, 8 games without a win, 1 point during that period, and you choose Manchester City to hire your new manager that doesn't make sense to me at all. This is as comfortable as it could be for Manchester City. And Leicester have been the most disappointing, easily team in the Premier League this season, given the squad that they have, where they should be, and where they are.
I wrote about this. If they go down, I think it'll be the biggest shock of the Premier League season. I know we've had some, Brighton and even Arsenal be in the position they are. Yeah. Didn't expect that, but I think I don't think anyone really had Leicester City getting relegated this season at the start of the predictions for the table. So let's wait and see if they can get out of that mess. West Ham against Arsenal. I'll be at the London Stadium for this one. We previewed it on PST this week. Nick, I'm predicting a draw in this game, but probably a narrow Arsenal win is more likely. But we kind of think without Saliba back there, with Rob Holding in that situation at centre-back, that's the area of weakness right now for Arsenal, right? So potentially West Ham could expose that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for Arsenal to figure out the best way to function against some speedy and creative players without having to measure yourself up against Liverpool for a second consecutive week. So for me, I think it'll be close on the score sheet. I don't think it'll really be close over the course of the game. This is going to be Arsenal with the ball, Arsenal threatening. And Andy made a really great point. Fabianski 2 weeks ago, absolutely awful against Newcastle. They totally fell apart and left him out to dry, and then he left himself out to dry. Last week, he looked like one of the better veteran goalies in the league. So, but I still think this is going Arsenal's way.
There we go. Let's focus on the top 4 in the European race now. There's a lot of teams involved in that now, given some of the results in recent weeks. Liverpool head to Leeds. Obviously, Liverpool potentially top four's gone, it looks like, but top six looks like a real possibility for them. And, you know, you could argue that it would be good for Jurgen Klopps' side to be in the Europa League and maybe go far in that next season. So I'm expecting Liverpool to get a big win there at Leeds in a very exciting game. And Leeds a little bit concerned about them now, just a couple of points above the relegation zone, and the way they capitulated against Palace doesn't look great for them down the stretch. So let's see what we can make of those two Jekyll and Hyde teams squaring off. But I'm going for a Liverpool win. Aston Villa against Newcastle. Andy, two of the form teams in the Premier League, basically. I mean, Aston Villa have been phenomenal under Unai Emery, and Newcastle as well. I guess two of the most efficient teams in the league. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. If you're not watching Aston Villa these days, then shame on you. You're missing something good. Like, solid defensively, solid possession, threatening on the counterattack going forward. I mean, Ollie Watkins, who, you know, when he moved from Brentford for the money that he did, I thought, you know, nice player. No way that they recoup in terms of production what they spent on him. And they have finally figured out, okay, we're going to put him on the left wing. We're going to run him into the channels. He's going to be a counterattacking menace. We're going to give him one-on-one shooting opportunities with the goalkeeper. And that's effectively all he does on the offensive side. He works incredibly hard defensively and has really helped to stabilize that team on that side of the ball. But they have such a good understanding of who they are and how they want to play under Unai Emery. They have the right pieces that fit into all the right places. It's just a very, very functional team at the moment. And yeah, they are, like you say, Joe, they are third in form over the last 6 games in the Premier League, behind only, obviously, Arsenal and Manchester City, just above Newcastle. So I think it's a draw in this one. I think it's going to be it will be entertaining, but I think it will also be measured and controlled between two teams who don't take a ton of risks. So a really, really good game this one is going to be.
And also intriguing. Remember, Unai Emery was the man that Newcastle really wanted to take charge, and then they ended up staying at Villarreal, and then they went for Eddie Howe instead. So obviously a lot of respect, I think, between these two football clubs. They spent a lot of money. They're both on the upward trajectory. So excited to see where their projects go to with these two great managers in the next few seasons. Nick, Nottingham Forest against Manchester United. All signs point to an easy away there win for Manchester United. Obviously, Nottingham Forest are scrapping against relegation. Had some good results at home at the City Ground this season, but Man United, I guess Marcus Rashford being out, that's the main question mark. So he's out, but then Casemiro comes back in and Christian Eriksen's back in. So some good and bad news for Erik ten Hag there.
Yeah, I think there might be a really good atmosphere also this week. Forest obviously doesn't like Manchester United. They were waiting for this fixture for a decade, and I don't think they've gotten tired of it in 1 year's time. And United, again, it's going to be about dealing with congestion, dealing with the effort. So I think this will probably be closer than it should be, especially without Rashford, who has been talismanic, as you guys like to say over there.
Lovely word. Lovely use of it as well, Nick. Tottenham against Bournemouth, Andy Edwards. Home win, just about?
Sure. Yeah.
Good prediction.
They are every bit of Liverpool this season, and just the unpredictability from game to game. Are they going to turn it? We know how they're going to play. We know that they're going to try and play way too defensive, way too conservative, let you have way too much of the ball, let you get way too much, too deep into their defensive third, and then I guess try to counter attack again. It doesn't make sense, and it continues to not really work, but they continue to get results because they have someone like Harry Kane, who, as he did against Brighton, can just simply say, none of this other stuff around me matters. I'll do it. Get out of my way. And then, so they should beat Bournemouth, whether they play well or they do not play well. But the potential for them to not play well is very real in this one from Spurs.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're going to keep their top 4 bid on track at least till the end of the season right now. So like you said, the star players are stepping up. But watch out for Bournemouth on the counter-attack. We've seen it. They've been really good. Some great January additions. Utara is a favourite here at PST. And they're doing a really good job to keep themselves just above the relegation scrap. So fair play to Bournemouth, but Tottenham win this weekend, I would think. Chelsea against Brighton, sneaky game there. Chelsea obviously juggling midweek games against Real Madrid in the Champions League, trying to save the season. Frank Lampard, Roberto De Zerbi doing a great job at Brighton. A little bit frustrated in recent weeks with some of the results they've had, but still playing really well. I don't think it's an upset. I'm going to go for a Brighton win in this one. I just think Chelsea are totally gone and they're just going to try and focus heavily on somehow scoring early against Real Madrid in the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinal at home and then trying to get something. So I think we all agree that Chelsea, the best thing that could happen for them is the end of the season, get a new manager in long term, and then try and get a striker and a bunch of other players they're probably going to sign. So, and let's focus now on the relegation scrap. Southampton against Crystal Palace, Wolves against Brentford, and Everton against Fulham. Nick, Saints against Palace. Let's start with that. Palace, obviously, 2 great wins with Roy Hodgson coming back in, giving themselves a little bit of breathing space above the bottom 3. But for Saints, it's pretty much now or never, right? I was at the Man City defeat last weekend. They played well for the first 50 minutes of that game and then just kind of collapsed. I asked Ruben Sellers, the manager, afterwards, are you going to go on the front foot a bit more? Are you going to take more risks now? 8 games to go. There's a chance of them being cut off at the bottom. And he said, you know what? I don't know if we can play different ways to what we're playing right now. We're kind of playing to the strength of the players we have. Shea Adams being out for them has been a big miss for them in recent weeks. So this feels like now or never for Saints, right? With some of the games for Forest and Leicester and Bournemouth this weekend, it feels like if they're going to get out of trouble, they kind of have to win against Palace in one of the early games on Saturday, and then put some pressure on the rivals around them and just be a point of safety if they do beat Palace. But any hope for my Southampton team against Crystal Palace?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they're going to get a result or a positive result. I don't know that they're going to win. And that's the thing. I think they always seem to me a team that has 2-3 dangerous chances in a game, and they might put one in, but they don't feel like a multi-goal team. And right now, Palace seems like they're going to score in every game. So if you ask me to pick, I'd say they'll get a point, but that's not what you want.
No, it's not in that situation. It's just not enough right now. 8 games to go of the season. Wolves against Brentford, Andy. Wolves, good win against Chelsea last week. Again, ease some pressure. Julian Lopetegui's side have been saying it are very, very good. They shouldn't really be where they are. He's got them figured out. Some good January additions. But Brentford, even though they're having a bit of a wobble, still having a great season, and they want to sort of refocus, right, and say, we can get into the top 6 and qualify for Europe. So what are we thinking here? Away win?
Yeah, I think they'll just edge it. Brentford are a strange team, the way that they play, and that's become more clear as the season's gone. Last time out, Nick outplayed Newcastle, probably should have won, right? Lost 2-1. How does a team put up 2.5 XG on 200 passes in a game? 200 completed passes in a game, and they rack up 2.57 XG against a team that's probably going to qualify for the Champions League. And there was refereeing decisions that took a couple goals away from. They are such a strange team and so difficult to play against because there is nothing you can do, no other team you can compare them to and say, all right, we need to do this, we need to do that, because they are their own entire thing. So I think they will give Wolves problem and probably win at Molineux.
Yeah, I agree with that. Everton against Fulham is the final game this match week. Nick, I'm probably going to go for an Everton win here. I think Sean Dyche has just figured it out at home, racking up these 1-0 wins. Fulham are just gone, right? I mean, all the chaos with Mitrovic and Marco Silva and just the way that they've unraveled. I mean, they're still going to have a great season when all is said and done, even if they lose all the remaining games, because most of us had them going down at the start of the season. But quite disappointed if it does unravel in the way we think it's going to for Fulham. And for Everton, just solid, keeping themselves in games. And the Goodison Park crowd is really turning up just like it did last season, and looks like it could give them the X factor to keep themselves in the Premier League.
For sure. Fulham has been a little bit of honestly, it was an awesome ride at the beginning of the season, but when you would look at the advanced stats, they would tell you they're drastically overperforming. I believe they are 4th in X points now. This is a team that is fortunate to have not been in a relegation rate. And I think, honestly, not being in it has been the difference that has kept it cluttered. When you're in it, it's hard to get out because you're always looking around. I think because Fulham wasn't in it, that's why they're still kind of cruising. But if they would have been in this position all year, I don't know that they would have risen above.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an intriguing one. So that is match week 31, all wrapped up, done and dusted. Head over to ProSoccerTalk on NBCSports.com for all the how to watch information ahead of this match week. So much going on in the title race, top 4, relegation scrap. It's chaos, basically. We still have no idea what's going to go on in the Premier League with, 8 games to go for most teams. So just the way we love it, gents.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.